This is the March, almost April 2026 tank update. Overall, tank is doing well. I did have one issue. I tend not to do a lot of water changes. And luckily, I do ICP tests somewhat regularly. And the last ICP test I sent off, I had elevated iodine and calcium, which was interesting. The calcium I was not surprised about because I dose quite a bit of reef, and I've heard that as you dose reef, you can get a buildup of the calcium. It adds a little more calcium. Well, it doesn't really add alk, I found out. I didn't realize that it's a little more carbon dosing, basically. And so, anyways, the calcium was high, which is not too surprising. So once I go down in the sump, I'll talk about how I adjusted. So basically I'm dosing a little more soda ash. Ooh, Tiny Tim's up. Let's get a close up of Tiny Tim real quick. Obviously he's not tiny anymore. It's getting huge. And seems to be a lot of couple pods in the tank. He seems to be fat and happy. I do put Phyto in my frozen, so I dose frozen with a little white squirt bottle, and I have multiple different types of frozen food in there, but I also put Phyto in there. So I'm adding a little bit of Phyto every day, so hopefully that helps keep the copepods up. Nice shot of them right there. So as far as the iodine, that was quite the surprise. I've been dosing everything the same for the last year, so why all of a sudden, without dosing extra iodine, would I have elevated iodine? I don't know. So I do dose Tropic Marin A and K a little bit in addition to what's in the reef. So perhaps that's the source. I just don't know. So I did several, I think I did 150 and then a couple of 30-gallon water changes. This is about 280 gallons total water volume. So I'll be sending off an ICP probably tomorrow, and we'll see if the levels have come down. So that was a little odd. But other than that, everything is going pretty well. Corals are growing like crazy. As you can see, I did glue in all of the frags that I had ordered from Thirsty's Reef. And so they're in place, and hopefully they will grow with time. Frags like the Bahama Millie right there. I forget the name of that one. Move, Gigi. There's the Walt Disney. This is the Heisenberg, Solar Flare. So yeah, got all those glued down, and they're doing great. No issues. My struggling A-can, like always. I never do well with A-cans. I did think about doing a side tank shot today, so I think I'll come over. I don't do side tank shots very often. Let's see what it looks like. There's Shamu, since he splashes so much water. Obviously he's getting massive. I do have a couple peppermints down here. I don't know if they'll show themselves, but there's the kind of the side back of the tank. Useless peppermints. I think the only thing they've actually done was to eat the whatchamacallits that I got in order to kill Aptasia, because they never kill Aptasia, so they're useless. And then I got some Bergia, and come to find out that the peppermints like to eat the Bergia, well, plus the wrasses, so I don't think the Bergia lasted more than a day. So I'm just stuck with Aptasia X for now. Fish are all doing well. No issues with them. Shamu still picks on the Desjardins somewhat often. And then sometimes picks on the magnificent foxface Gigi, which is bizarre because anytime he bites Gigi, he learned his lesson. Gigi's been acting a little strange lately. As you can see, she's sort of like that all the time, just sort of swimming excessively. Eats fine. When she sleeps, she acts normal, so I don't know why she's behaving like that. But she's been doing it for days. So far she looks healthy, so I don't know what to make of it. The convict tang is getting larger. Still does not eat anything other than the nori that I put in, and is constantly, I mean constantly grazing. That thing, if you ever want the most proficient algae cleaner, it's gotta be that one. I've had quite a few tangs, I've never seen anything eat as continuously as that. And I guess the orange shoulder does eat pretty constantly as well. The nice thing about the orange shoulder is the orange shoulder actually grazes algae off the sand itself. And so the orange shoulder keeps the sand pretty white. Plus I've got all the fighting conchas and stuff, but I think it's mostly the orange shoulder that keeps the sand white, which is nice. I will do a side shot over here. Sometimes I regret how much room I left in the back. I felt like I could have moved my rocks back further. It's a good amount of space. But as the fish get bigger, they do like that. It's their, they love to swim back there, so. And eventually the SPS is gonna grow and kind of fill back there, so I guess it worked out. I did add this DMP40 pump right here. I haven't been running it continuously because it's actually a little bit too powerful, so sometimes I'll just run it for a couple hours when I get home and turn it off. Some people say it's the same as an MP40. I have not found that to be true, because the lowest you can run those things is at 30%. You can't run it any lower. And 30% on an MP40 versus 30% on that beast, there's no comparison. It's much stronger. So eventually I'll probably need it to push more water kind of the back of the tank back there as the SPS grow, but for now I actually leave it off most of the time. And then I did want a little more of a little less shadowing on the front of the tank. So I did add another one of the reef brides. So I already had the blue reef bright in the front, and then just behind it I added another strip reef bright. So now I've got two of the blues, one in the front, one way in the back, and then two of the multicolor, which is alternating blue and white, one in the front, one in the back. And it really did make a difference. Some of these corals, like the Walt Disney, still has a slight amount of shadowing in the front, but much less than it did before. So yeah, there was some shadowing across the front here, just wasn't enough light. The Red Seas are good light, but they don't, the shape of them is they're sort of, I don't know if you can see, but they're kind of oblong this way. So they seem to cast light pretty well left to right, but not as well front to back. So that's why I've had to supplement with the 4 reef brights to make up for that. But otherwise, they're growing coral like crazy. SPS is exploding. My home wrecker is growing very quickly now, starting to take off, which is nice. Bill Murray is really growing fast. So is the Pink Floyd, which is nice. Nice to have a yellow coral, those are not common. But the Pink Floyd is growing quickly, so. Everything's doing great. I did take my green Slimer and sort of stuck it up on this thing here so it can grow sort of up towards the water line, but a little bit away from some of the other corals. And obviously it's growing very quickly. And then I will go down in the sump and show what I added down there. So as I discussed, the elevated calcium. So I run my doser 3 times a day, and that's all for reef and that back there, in addition to the calc stir that runs pretty much at max that I can, based on evaporation. So that's the majority of my alk and calcium needs. But then whenever the IV tests and detects the low level, if the alk drops below 9, it will suck a little bit out of this chamber, which I used to dose more alpha reef. But with the elevated calcium, I decided I'm just gonna put soda ash in here. So now anytime the IV detects alk below 9, it will dose soda ash instead of more alpha reef. And so hopefully that will balance out the calcium. I'll be testing this weekend and see if it made a difference. So hopefully that works. Haven't checked nitrates and phosphates in a while. I'm not sure I care that much anymore because the corals are doing so well, but I just don't want to bottom them out. They have been running high for a long time, so I built this. So this is 2 acrylic boxes, and I cut the floor out of one of them and stacked them on top of each other. And so basically, and I had this Kessel refugium light sitting around, and so I just cut some holes in the back of the box back there, and I'm shooting a J-bow pump right into it. And it's growing different seaweed pretty well. So we'll see if I do have the GFO reactor running as well. So hopefully the combination of the GFO reactor plus my little mini algae scrubber, or homemade algae scrubber, hopefully that combination will keep them a little lower, because they definitely run high with this many fish. I mean, I think I have like over 30 fish, so. But yeah, otherwise the tank is doing very, very well. I haven't really done much outside in the garage, so I'm not gonna show those tanks. They're not very pretty right now anyways. But the house tank is doing great, enjoying it immensely. I am starting to pull more and more frags out as the corals growing to each other. I have to cut them back, so I've been taking frags and sticking them out in the garage. I've got probably about a third of the SPS frags so far and pieces in the garage, and they're doing great. Frags are surviving and looking good, so keep that up and start getting multiple frags out there, and then I'll be able to either sell them or trade them. I'll probably just trade them or give them to people, honestly, but we'll see. All right, I'll try to post an update within the next couple of months.